The Mirror Hunter. Chapter 1. Fractured Reflections. My name is Mason Reed, 36, former Navy SEAL, Team 6. 4 deployments, 2 commendations for valor, and 1 for an operation that officially never happened. I've hung up my tactical gear for what I hoped would be the quiet life, night security at Moonlight Tide Gallery, where my wife Valerie's light reflection installation stands as the centerpiece of their seasonal exhibition. I thought I'd left all my wars behind me. Turns out, the most devastating battle was just beginning, in a labyrinth of reflections where truth has 1,000 facets, and the changed look in my wife's eyes terrifies me more than all the combat zones I've survived. Midnight shift. 2:08 a.m. The security monitoring room, standard surveillance rounds. East sector, lobby clear. 5th floor, sculpture wing unchanged. West wing, guard Rodriguez completing his scheduled patrol according to protocol. I methodically shift my gaze from screen to screen. Perimeter control, as we called it in the teams. Sector by sector, camera by camera. Just work, just another night. 2:12 a.m. The Reflections Zone main seasonal exhibit, the Mirror Maze Valerie spent 8 months creating. According to monitors, the hall is empty. I switch to the next camera, then return. Something snagged my peripheral vision. A shadow, a glint. 12 years in special operations taught me to trust that tingling at the base of my skull. I focus the camera on the maze entrance. 2:14 a.m. The image is foggy, but I clearly see 2 figures slipping between the reflective panels. The alarm system hasn't triggered. Professionals, possibly. My hand automatically reaches for my holstered weapon. A Glock 43-9 standard issue for private security, 6 rounds in the magazine. Not my customary combat loadout, but sufficient. I adjust the image clarity and freeze. Valerie, my wife, and with her, a tall man with a distinctive silver streak in his chestnut hair. Dominic Ellsworth, the gallery curator. The man who personally selected Valerie's work as the gallery's main seasonal attraction. They're not thieves, they're trespassers. The gallery is closed until morning. How did they get inside? Why? Standard protocol requires calling the rapid response team, but I don't. Something in their movements, the way Ellsworth holds Valerie's elbow, too intimate, too familiar, stops me. Professional deformation. Perhaps. But in Afghanistan, I survived because I learned to notice details that don't fit the overall picture. And here, everything feels wrong. I increase the volume. The system captures Valerie's whisper. Are you sure no one will find out? Security sweeps this sector every 40 minutes. We have 28 minutes. Ellsworth's voice sounds muffled, reflecting off the glass surfaces. And your husband? He's on duty in the East Wing. He doesn't even know about this camera. A smirk twists my lips. I know every camera in the building. It's my job. Valerie is mistaken, thinking I wouldn't check on her creation. They slip deeper into the labyrinth territory created by my wife, where every angle, every turn was calculated and calibrated by her for months. I switch to a camera deeper in the installation. Image quality worsens. Valerie insisted on atmospheric lighting, creating problems for surveillance systems. But I see enough. Betrayal in mirrors. The center of the labyrinth, an octagonal room where each wall is a mirror. According to Valerie's concept, visitors reaching the center should experience disorientation and encounter multiple reflections of themselves, a metaphor for the fragmentation of the modern self. So it's said in the exhibition catalog. Words she internalized, whispered to me at night when she thought I couldn't hear. But now it's not museum visitors in the labyrinth's center. It's Valerie and Ellsworth. I watch as my wife embraces the curator, tilting her head back. Their kiss reflects in dozens of mirrors, multiplied infinity of betrayal. I see how her hands, those same hands that combed through my hair this morning, slide across Ellsworth's back, how she presses against him. Something cold and hard tightens in my chest, A steel spring familiar from combat operations. Distance. Separation of emotions from the task. What they teach Team 6 operators. I turn off the sound. No need to hear their breathless whispers, fragments of phrases that could have been meant for me. I just observe. Record facts. Valerie removes her black dress, revealing the pale body I still thought was mine. Ellsworth explores her. One mirror seems to reflect them at a strange angle, holding their movement a beat longer when they change position. Maybe a defect in the glass. Maybe a play of light. Maybe my eyes, tired from monitors. I could go down now, catch them, create a jealous scene, break Ellsworth's well-groomed nose, twist his arm until the joints crack. I know at least 8 ways to do this without causing permanent damage. But that would be impulse, a human reaction, not an operator's. In Kandahar, such impulses cost lives. Instead, I methodically switch to the system settings for the camera in the center of the labyrinth. Activate recording. Create a backup copy to an external drive. Check timestamps. By 4:07 a.m. it's over. They leave the same way they came in. I track their movement through other cameras. Side exit, alarm code which Ellsworth obviously knows, and they dissolve into the pre-dawn darkness. I look at the external drive with the video recording. Evidence of infidelity, enough to destroy a marriage, but my intuition suggests this is just the tip of the iceberg. In the teams they teach, gather intelligence before acting. Don't show your opponent you know their tactics. Observe, identify patterns, reveal vulnerabilities. If this is war, and it feels exactly like that, I've just discovered the first front line, and it runs through the center of my wife's mirror labyrinth. Patterns and observations. I'm wired to recognize patterns. During my service, I identified regularities in enemy movements, convoy routes, the faces of locals. 3 consecutive actions repeated twice, that's already a pattern. Valerie and Ellsworth clearly acted according to a prepared plan, which means this likely wasn't a one-off event. Over the next 3 nights, I install additional micro-cameras at strategic points in the installation. Modified Mobius C3, slightly larger than a button, with wide-angle optics and 48-hour autonomous power. I place them in blind spots of the main surveillance system. All data transmits to an encrypted server only I can access. On the evening of the 3rd day, my system intercepts the first signal. Not Valerie, another couple. A woman in her 30s with heavy diamond earrings removes her wedding ring before entering the labyrinth. A middle-aged man, I recognize Ronald Keller, owner of 3 construction companies in the city, whose face regularly appears in business chronicles. He looks around before following the woman. Her subdued laughter echoes off the reflective surfaces. An hour later, an elderly man with silver temples and a young blonde in a black dress slip through the same entrance. My recognition algorithms identify Samuel Higgins, editor-in-chief of the Northland Tribune. She's Melissa Cole, intern from the political news department. 2 days of continuous observation give me the complete picture. During night hours between midnight and 4 a.m., the mirror labyrinth hosts at least 3 to 4 couples, always following the same pattern, woman first, then man. Always precisely calculated duration, 43 minutes. Always influential people. A city hall politician, the head of a mortgage company, the chief tax inspector. I record everything in a spreadsheet. Names, times, duration. The pattern is flawless like a combat formation. This isn't just a series of spontaneous trysts. It's a system. Each couple heads to the center of the labyrinth, the octagonal room with mirrors at different angles. There, in this kaleidoscope of reflections, I observe a repeating pattern. Men and women making love, multiplied by dozens of reflections, watching their own movements in mirrors and reaching incredible ecstasy from this. My military experience suggests, if there's such a distinct pattern, someone is managing it, an invisible conductor creating this scheme. I create an electronic map of visits, names, dates, duration. Blue lines connect participants with prominent positions in administration, business, media. Red indicates unusual decisions made by these people over the last month. The emerging picture reminds me of the classified map of Taliban positions from my last deployment, a web of connections, invisible to the uninitiated. On the fifth night, my cameras capture Valerie and Ellsworth again, but this time they're not alone. After they leave, an elderly couple enters the labyrinth, State Senator Harrison and his wife. After the senator, a well-known banker, and so on. A continuous flow of people whose names appear on newspaper front pages. I remember how Valerie described her installation. It's not just art, it's a point where realities touch, a place where people meet their true selves. It seems many influential people in town are meeting their true selves under very specific circumstances. But the strangest thing I notice when reviewing footage at increased speed, a person not captured by my algorithms, a figure appearing in the labyrinth after each visit, too fast movement, too precise relocations, cameras can't fix on them. Delay means death, I recall my training instructor saying. I install an additional camera with increased frame rate. And wait. Digitize secrets. Thursday, 00:17. The last couple media magnate Berger with his assistant leaves the labyrinth. I activate the new camera. The image is clear though monochrome. A medium-height person with perfect posture rapidly enters the labyrinth. Dominic Ellsworth. He moves through the labyrinth with the confidence of someone who knows every turn. In his hands, a small electronic device resembling a detector. He heads straight to one of the mirrors in the central room. I zoom in. Ellsworth slides open an almost invisible panel on the mirror frame. Inside, a miniature camera so small that even a professional bug sweep wouldn't detect it. He extracts a tiny flash drive the size of a pinky nail. Over the next 11 minutes, the curator repeats the operation with 6 mirrors, 6 recording points, 6 flash drives that he carefully places in a special case. The puzzle pieces start coming together. Ellsworth isn't just my wife's lover. He's part of a more complex scheme, the operator of a surveillance system disguised as a work of art. At midnight Friday, I capture the next stage of the operation. Ellsworth in his third-floor gallery office. A tall, silver-haired man in an impeccable suit arrives there. Corridor surveillance cameras captured his entrance, but his face is hidden from direct view. The man clearly knows the security system layout. My facial recognition algorithm produces a result. Lucian Blackwood, billionaire, collector, main sponsor of the current exhibition, the man who personally approved Valerie's project and allocated additional funding for her special mirrors. The recording is without sound, but I can read lips well enough, a skill necessary for silent operations. Blackwood says, "All materials in place." Ellsworth hands him the case with flash drives. Everything according to plan. The final elements are almost ready. The last phrase makes me tense. Something in his intonation and how Blackwood takes the case, carefully, almost reverently, triggers an alarm signal in my subconscious. This isn't a simple information exchange. It's the transfer of something vitally important. I activate additional resources I kept in reserve. Hack into the gallery's video archive system. Gain access to surveillance camera recordings from the last 3 months. Launch a search algorithm to identify Blackwood's visits. Results appear after 47 minutes. Blackwood visited the gallery after closing at least once a week for the past 2 months, always on Fridays, always at midnight, always met with Ellsworth, and each time left with a small case. The collector isn't just sponsoring the exhibition. He's collecting something, something recorded in the mirror labyrinth. I launch a search through open sources on Lucian Blackwood. The official biography is impressive. Financier, philanthropist, patron contemporary art collector, specializes in experimental forms and immersive installations. Born in Scotland, educated at Oxford, living in the US for the past 15 years. Digging deeper is harder. I use military contacts, access databases that officially don't exist, and find an anomaly. Information about Blackwood before his appearance in the US is fragmentary, as if someone carefully edited his past. The only lead, a mention in a small circulation art journal. Blackwood's special interest in 18th century mirrors from a particular shipwreck, especially works of craftsman Gregory, whose products, according to legend, possessed unusual optical properties. Shipwreck mirrors, Valerie's mirror installation, digitized recordings of intimate moments of the city's influential people. Everything starts forming a pattern I don't like at all. Home theater. You're early, Valerie flinches when I enter our apartment at 2243. She's in her blue robe, her chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun. In front of her, a laptop with sketches of a new installation. Asked Ramirez to cover, thought you wouldn't refuse a latte. I'm holding 2 coffee cups from her favorite cafe. You're thoughtful. She awkwardly accepts the cup as if not expecting such a gesture. We're playing at normalcy. I'm the husband who doesn't know about betrayal. She's the wife who doesn't know that I know. How's your revolutionary turn? I ask, nodding at the sketches. Valerie's eyes light up. She starts talking about her work, and I notice changes I wouldn't have caught without the information obtained. A new amulet around her neck, a silver disc with a strange, barely noticeable spiral symbol. The same symbol I saw on Blackwood's hand. Her gaze, sometimes losing focus, wandering, as if she's looking through me, seeing something beyond our apartment. And Lucian said this could become the most significant contribution to rethinking contemporary art. Her voice changes when mentioning Blackwood, becomes quieter, more reverent. He's so insightful, sees what others don't see. Blackwood, the billionaire sponsoring the exhibition. I take a sip of coffee, hiding my attention behind casualness. He's more than just a sponsor, Mason. Valerie nervously twirls a strand of hair around her finger, a gesture that appeared recently. He's a visionary, understands that art can be a bridge between realities. Sounds interesting. I smile, maintaining the conversation. Do you talk with him often? We meet to discuss concepts. Her eyes avoid mine. He chose me, says I'm special. My perception, my connection with reflections, perfect for his project. The danger algorithm in my head issues a red alert. This doesn't sound like professional collaboration, but manipulation. What's the project about? A charity evening, Valerie animates. In 3 weeks, Blackwood is modifying my installation, adding antique mirrors from shipwrecks from his collection. I'll be the center of a live performance that will change the perception of everyone present. It will. Change my career, Mason. Change everything. I listen, nodding oddities in her speech. Phrases sound rehearsed, as if she were repeating someone else's words. Her eyes shine feverishly. When she goes to shower, I check her laptop. I find sketches of the modified installation. The central part, an altar with an original antique mirror in an ornate frame. Around it, a system of mirrors creating endless reflections. In the center of the composition, a female figure tied to a structure resembling an astronomical instrument. In the margins, in Valerie's handwriting, the same symbol that's on her amulet, and a caption, "The Watcher sees all." I don't sleep that night. Listen to my wife's breathing. At 3:12 a.m., Valerie gets out of bed, moving like a sleepwalker, approaches the bathroom mirror. I watch through the door crack. She whispers to her reflection. I see light through the cracks. He says I'm the key to the door that's always been here. Her reflection seems to answer with a second's delay. Or is it just a play of shadows? In the morning, I try to reach the real Valerie. Remind her of our first meeting, exhibition in a small gallery, her installation of broken mirrors, our conversation about how art can heal trauma. For a moment, her eyes clear. She grabs my hand. "Mason, something's happening. I'm losing myself. He's in my head. The mirrors are watching." Then she blinks, smiles unnaturally wide. "What were we talking about? I think I got distracted." She doesn't remember her words, but I do. And I understand that Blackwood is doing something to my wife beyond simple seduction or manipulation. This resembles programming, or what we saw in terrorist camps using mind control techniques. Valerie leaves for the whole day, important meeting with Lucian. I use this time to access Dominic Ellsworth's computer, the curator, my wife's lover and Blackwood's right hand, the perfect information source. The trail leads into darkness. Breaking into the gallery system gave me remote access to all work computers, including Ellsworth's machine. I launch a scan of his files from a secure location, an internet cafe 3 blocks from home. Initial results are discouraging. Ellsworth is methodical and cautious. No compromising files, no obvious traces. But in the teams they taught us, there are no absolutely protected systems. Everyone has a weak spot. I find it in cloud storage, a separate folder hidden behind a triple authentication system. The breach takes almost an hour, but the result is worth the effort. Ellsworth's files contain detailed plans for the upcoming charity evening, a diagram of the modified installation, a list of 108 invitees, the city's political and business elite, a detailed script for the live performance with Valerie at the center. But most importantly, documentation of Blackwood's project, about which Ellsworth is gathering information behind his patron's back. Apparently, the curator doesn't fully trust the collector. He's compiled historical materials about 18th-century mirrors from a shipwreck, articles about a craftsman named Gregory Blackwood, Lucian's ancestor. According to these documents, Gregory created a special glass treatment technology allowing mirrors to hold images reflected in them. The mirror Gregory worked on was broken under mysterious circumstances, fragments scattered across the world. And now, if Ellsworth's notes are to be believed, Lucian Blackwood is collecting these fragments back, embedding them in a contemporary installation, preparing some ritual. The guest list for the charity evening exactly matches my own map of people filmed in the mirror labyrinth, as if Blackwood deliberately gathered compromising material on influential people in the city. But for what? Ordinary blackmail, too primitive for a man of his caliber. There's something else here. I download all files, noticing a strange phrase in Ellsworth's notes. The watcher awaits completion of the mosaic, the same terminology Valerie used. After lunch, I track Blackwood from the gallery to his coastal estate, a mansion in neo-Gothic style surrounded by a park, the central element of the complex, a stone lighthouse about 30 meters high, much older than the main building. It looks foreign, as if transported from another time and place. Using military binoculars with 20x magnification, I observe as Blackwood carries a box, presumably with flash drives, into the lighthouse. Then something strange happens. He freezes on the porch and slowly turns exactly in my direction. Impossible. I'm 2 kilometers away, behind dense trees in camouflage. I can't be visible. And yet he looks directly at me, smiles, nods briefly as if confirming he knows of my presence. I remain motionless for an hour after he leaves, take several photos of the lighthouse through a telephoto lens. Only when reviewing them later do I notice a detail that chills my spine. All lighthouse windows are hung with mirrors facing outward. On one of them is a symbol, that same spiral. Is it possible Blackwood saw me through the mirror system? Absurd from an optical standpoint. But what if these mirrors work differently than ordinary ones? I recall my instructor's words in SEAL training. Unknown doesn't mean impossible. If the enemy uses a weapon you don't understand, don't deny its existence. Study it. Returning home, I realized the whole picture. The mirror installation, secret recordings, ancient ritual, the symbol on everything connected to Blackwood, changes in Valerie's behavior. Everything points to something beyond an ordinary criminal scheme. Blackwood is preparing something massive. The charity evening is just a cover for a ritual with my wife at its center, and I have 3 weeks to figure out how to stop him. I check my service weapon, extra magazine. Looking at my reflection in the mirror, I address the Mason Reed who was in Kandahar, Mosul, Mogadishu, the operator who never lost. Time for a new mission, soldier. The objective, save my wife, and possibly all these people from Blackwood's list. My reflection nods, and it seems to do so with a second's delay, like all reflections in this story which is just beginning. Chapter 2, Broken Glass. War requires reconnaissance. It doesn't matter who you're fighting, Taliban in the mountains of Afghanistan or a mysterious billionaire obsessed with mirrors and rituals. Information is both weapon and armor. In SEAL Team 6, we studied a target for weeks before taking the first shot, and now I'm planning an operation with the same methodical approach. My target, Lucian Blackwood. My territory, his coastal estate with the Gothic lighthouse. And my reconnaissance shows I have just 6 hours while he's at a charity reception at the Metropolitan Club. Infiltration of the lair. At the 5-kilometer mark of my run, I slow down. Nothing suspicious about a man in a tracksuit stopping to catch his breath by a hedge. Surveillance cameras capture me, but I'm just background noise, a jogger who veered off route. The perimeter of Blackwood's estate is better guarded than I expected. Infrared motion sensors, hidden high-resolution cameras, patrol guards with German shepherds, every 37 minutes. Professional level, not what you'd expect from an art collector. I spot a blind zone between 2 cameras, 6 seconds that will be enough to slip through the hedge. Alarming that such an obvious miscalculation was left in the system. Either the designers are amateurs or it's bait. I'll risk checking. In my backpack, I carry minimal equipment, a portable electronic device scanner, compact wire cutters for fencing, a Ka-Bar knife, a gun unsanctioned, no serial number, thanks to old military connections, and a folding monocular with night vision mode. I slip into the gap between cameras ready to be noticed, but no alarm triggers. I continue moving from tree to bush, from bush to service building. The guards move in predictable routes, the main mistake of any security system. People aren't machines, they create patterns. The main mansion building glitters with lights, but the Gothic lighthouse hides in shadow. A separate corridor leads to it from the main house, immersed in half-darkness. I check the doors, all locked, windows protected by alarm systems. But the lighthouse is older than the main building. It must have other entry points. And I find one, a narrow technical crawlspace hidden behind a decorative ventilation grate. I can squeeze through, though it will require effort. Crawling 20 meters through a cramped tunnel is nothing compared to the submarine simulator drills we went through in the teams. That was 2 hours in complete darkness with limited oxygen. Here, just a few minutes of discomfort. The tunnel ends in a technical room. Old boilers, tools, dust on the floor, nobody's entered in months. The perfect entrance for someone who wants to remain undetected. Down a narrow spiral staircase, I descend into the basement. Here the air changes, becomes dry, chemical. A faint sound of working electronics comes from behind a massive oak door. I check it, unlocked. Mistake or confidence? I open the door and freeze on the threshold. What I see is unlike anything I've encountered before. A laboratory, but not an ordinary one with modern equipment. Here centuries collide, ancient alchemical devices neighbor high-tech computers. A wall of monitors displays recordings from Valerie's mirror installation. On each screen, a close-up of a face in a moment of intimate closeness. Here's Senator Harrison, his mouth distorted in ecstasy. Here's Banker Thompson's wife, her eyes closed, head thrown back. Here's Melissa Cole, that intern from the newspaper. The recordings form a mosaic of reflections, assembled by an invisible operator. I notice something strange. In each recording, there's a moment when a person's reflection noticeably lags, moves asynchronously with the original, as if for a split second it existed independently. On a massive central table, a diagram of Valerie's gallery installation. 47 mirrors marked with red dots. Nearby, technical documentation describing microchips embedded in the frames. Tiny transmitters, thinnest conductors covered with some silvery compound. I photograph everything I see using my encrypted device. Record facts. Emotions can be processed later. A glass cabinet against the far wall attracts my attention. Inside, a collection of samples, pieces of antique glass, fragments of mercury amalgam, vials with a dark substance. Each sample dated, the earliest, 1724. On a neighboring table, an ancient folio, its pages yellowed with time. The text is in Old Scottish, but the diagrams are understandable without translation. Mirrors of special construction, arranged along geometric lines. Human figures in the center of the composition, and the same symbol, a spiral, on each page. Next to the book, a modern laboratory journal, methodical, scrupulous record of experiments. The last page dated yesterday, 4750 fragments integrated into the system, resonance stable, conductor prepared, final phase in 14 days. At the top a note, possible complication MR. I've been included in the equation. Blackwood knows I'm watching him. Voices from shadow. The sound of footsteps catches me over the journal. 2 people descending the stairs. Conversation muffled but distinguishable. One voice, Blackwood's characteristic Scottish accent. The second lower with British intonations. I quickly assess options. The door I entered through is too far. No windows. The only cover, a massive wooden cabinet in the corner of the laboratory, stacked with books and instruments. I squeeze into the space between the cabinet and the wall. Not ideal, but if they're not specifically looking, they won't notice. In sniper missions, I've lain in exposed positions for hours without being discovered. The key, breath control, complete stillness. The laboratory door opens. Blackwood and his assistant, a tall man with military bearing, enter. I recognize the second man, Wesley Thorne, former SAS, British Special Forces. 5 years ago, he was excluded from the unit under unclear circumstances. Now it's clear where he ended up. Monitoring shows all changes are stable, says Thorne, approaching the monitors. The subjects don't even realize the psychological changes. The ritual requires strong emotions, passion, fear, euphoria. Blackwood runs his fingers over the installation diagram. Each mirror fragment is saturated with this. When a person is in ecstasy or terror, their soul is exposed, becomes vulnerable. The camera system has captured all necessary moments, recordings processed. Blackwood nods, adjusting his impeccable shirt cuff. But Valerie is special. Her connection with mirrors existed even before we met. Her soul resonates with the artifact. She's the perfect conductor. Did you see her works before I met her? She intuitively reproduced the principles of Gregory's mirrors without knowing the theory. That's not coincidence. Valerie is ready, but her husband is a problem, Thorne frowns. Military background, skills he's maintained. My sources say he was one of the best in SEAL Team 6, the type they send when others return in body bags. Blackwood waves dismissively, and I notice on his hand a scar in the shape of a spiral. A toy soldier accustomed to direct conflicts. We're waging a war of reflections, Wesley. He may be dangerous in a world of bullets and blood, but what does he know about the subtle matter between worlds? In a week at the charity evening, the ritual will be completed, and no soldier can stop what exists outside the physical world. They lean over the central table. Blackwood activates a projection, three-dimensional diagram of the gallery with flickering points indicating mirror positions. The watcher has waited for centuries, continues Blackwood. When my blood becomes the conductor, his essence can fully connect with the physical world, and the city's elite, gathered in one place, surrounded by activated mirrors, the perfect energy reservoir. Thorne looks concerned. Are you sure you can control him? Blackwood freezes, his voice becomes colder. He's existed beyond the boundary for almost 3 centuries, gathering knowledge, accumulating power. You think I'd become his instrument without guarantees? We made a deal. My blood, his path to our world. In exchange, I'll receive what he's accumulated beyond the boundary of reality. Immortality, Wesley. Not figurative, not in the memory of descendants. Real, physical immortality. Thorne looks at the diagram. And Valerie, what will happen to her after the ritual? Her soul will become an anchor, Blackwood replies calmly. The first of many, she'll pave the way for others. It's an honor, Wesley, a great honor. I clench my fists so hard that nails dig into my palms. For the first time since the operation began, emotions break through my professional mask. They're talking about my wife as expendable material. This sobering realization focuses me. Enemy identified. Objective clear. Blackwood checks his watch antique with an intricate dial. Time to go, guests are waiting. At 10 I have a meeting with Ellsworth for a final scheme check. You'll ensure security. Already organized, sir. Additional men arrive tomorrow. They leave, turning off the main lights but leaving monitors on. I wait 10 minutes, then leave my hiding place. My muscles are stiff, but my mind is crystal clear. I know what to do next. I need more information, and I know where to get it. Dominic Ellsworth, curator, my wife's lover, and a cog in Blackwood's mechanism. He's my next source. Interrogation with prejudice. At Ellsworth's house, I wait in a car rented under false documents. It's a modest townhouse in the Arts District, not what you'd expect from a successful curator. Either Ellsworth isn't as successful, or he prefers to hide his wealth. At 23:17, a taxi stops at the entrance. Ellsworth gets out, pays the fare, climbs the steps, pauses to check his mailbox. His movements betray fatigue and tension. Shoulders down, gaze anxious. I let him enter, wait 5 minutes, enough for him to relax, maybe pour a drink. Then I approach the door, using a card pick, a simple but effective device that opens most standard locks. Ellsworth is in the living room, whiskey with ice, shoes off, tie loosened. I close the door so quietly that he notices me only when I'm already in the room. His hand freezes halfway to his mouth. The glass trembles. Mr. Reed, his voice betrays fear, but he tries to maintain a professional tone. What an unexpected visit. For both of us, I reply, approaching closer. Not threateningly, but confidently reducing distance. I'd prefer to enjoy a quiet evening at home, but my wife talks to mirrors, my cameras show you together in the labyrinth she created, and Lucian Blackwood is planning some ritual where she's a conductor. So here we are. Ellsworth tries to stand. I gently push him back into the chair. Don't complicate things, Dominic. I'm not in the mood. You break into my house and... I interrupt him, pressing him against the wall. What are you doing with my wife? What ritual is Blackwood preparing? I don't understand what you're... The red case hidden in the ventilation shaft of your bedroom, I say. Flash drives in the hollow book on the 3rd shelf, the hiding place in the bathroom behind the mirror. I was there while you were at the reception. I know about the video recordings you collect, about the people you blackmail, and that Blackwood is blackmailing you. It's a bluff. I wasn't in his house before, but I've seen how people like him organize their hiding places, and I can see by his eyes that I've hit the mark. Ellsworth deflates like a punctured balloon. His shoulders drop even lower, panic in his eyes. You don't understand. If I talk, he'll destroy me. Not just my career, me. "If you don't talk, I'll destroy you," I reply calmly. "And believe me, Blackwood at least has style. I have only efficiency." Ellsworth looks at me, evaluating the threat, then nods, acknowledging defeat. "Blackwood was blackmailing me," he says quietly. "At first, just asked for access to the gallery after closing, then demanded technical specifications of all exhibition halls, then information about your wife." "Why?" "Because of her work with mirrors. He's obsessed with them, collects them all his life, but not like an ordinary collector. He believes they possess power." Ellsworth moves to the bookshelf. His hands shake as he pulls out a folder. "Here, I collected this secretly, tried to understand what I'd gotten into." I take the folder. Inside, faded photocopies of ancient documents, records in different languages, schemes and diagrams. "Blackwood is collecting fragments of an ancient mirror created by alchemist Gregory Blackwood in 1724, explains the curator. His ancestor. According to these documents, the mirror possessed special properties. It could capture parts of souls of people reflected in it." Sounds like mystical nonsense. I thought so too, until I saw the evidence. Recordings from cameras in your wife's installation. The reflections. Sometimes they move on their own, for a split second but noticeable in slow-motion viewing. Ellsworth points to a photograph of an antique mirror in an ornate frame. The original mirror was broken under mysterious circumstances, fragments scattered across the world. Blackwood has been collecting them for 30 years. Now he's embedded them in a contemporary installation, your wife's work. She doesn't know her mirrors contain these fragments. What does he want to do with them? Complete a ritual his ancestor couldn't finish. Open a path between worlds, as he puts it. I thought it was a metaphor, an artistic image, but he believes it literally. Ellsworth falls silent, then adds, "Valerie isn't just a victim. Blackwood believes she possesses an innate gift necessary to activate all fragments simultaneously, some special type of perception. He calls her the perfect conductor." I remember how Valerie sometimes described her sensations from music, in colors and shapes, how she could watch light play for hours. Synesthesia, that's what it's called. A rare neurological condition where one type of perception involuntarily triggers another. "You were with her, on his orders." Ellsworth looks away, and I see shame in him. "At first, yes, he ordered, to get close to her, make her more receptive to his influence. But then," he falters, "I really fell in love with her talent, her vision of the world, and now I don't know how to save her." I look at him, a pathetic, confused man who became a pawn in someone else's game. He's genuinely in love with my wife. In any other situation, I'd hate him. Now, he's just another fragment of the puzzle. What will happen at the charity evening? Blackwood modified the installation, added the last fragments, reinforced the scheme with special components. In the center will be an altar with an antique frame for the mirror's final fragment. Valerie will be tied to the structure, part of a live performance, as they'll explain to the public. But in reality, Ellsworth pales. I saw the ritual dagger, an ancient stiletto, in his office. It was on a special stand in a glass case. Now it's clear. Blackwood isn't just planning an occult ceremony, he's preparing a ritual murder of my wife, in front of a crowd of the city's elite who'll think they're seeing contemporary art. "Thanks for the information," I say, standing. "If anything you've told me is a lie, I'll be back, and our conversation will be much less pleasant." "What are you going to do?" Genuine concern in his voice. "What I was trained to do," I reply. "Protect the innocent at any cost." Secrets of the shipwrecked glass. I study Ellsworth's materials in a motel on the city outskirts. Cheap room, paid in cash. Perfect place for someone who doesn't want to be found. The folder contains real treasures for investigation. 18th century engravings depict mirrors of special construction, arranged in geometric patterns. people in the center of compositions, with distorted faces, as if in ecstasy or agony. Historical records report disappearances after contact with cursed reflections. Aristocrats, scientists, priests, suddenly vanishing without a trace. The name Gregory Blackwood appears in documents of a maritime investigation. An alchemist banished from Edinburgh on charges of unnatural sciences and communion with forbidden entities. His main discovery, a method of treating mercury glass, creating an effect of inner light. In a diary that apparently belonged to one of Gregory's apprentices are astonishing observations. Master Gregory claims mirrors are windows not only to our world but to other spheres of being. With proper tuning, he says, one can create resonance between our world and what lies beyond reflections. The most important find, a fragment of Gregory's own diary in Old Scottish. I use an online translator to understand key points. The mirror does not reflect light, it stores its blinding power, as well as the shadows of those who looked into it. I discovered that a special amalgam composition, including mercury from underwater caves beneath the old shipwreck, creates the effect of delayed reflection. A face reflected in such a mirror persists for a fraction of a second even after the object has turned away. This proves my theory. Part of the observer's essence remains in the mirror. Gregory then describes experiments to enhance this effect. Special glass cutting, silver threads fused into the frame, mercury amalgam mixed with unknown substances. And finally, a description of the main experiment. I created a system of 12 mirrors arranged around a central one, my masterpiece. When the subject is in the center and experiences strong emotions, passion, fear, ecstasy, their reflections in all mirrors begin to live their own lives. They move asynchronously, creating a multiplicity effect. I believe this is not an optical illusion, but a breakthrough in the barrier between worlds. The last entry breaks off mid-sentence. Today I will conduct the final experiment. If my theory is correct, then light reflected from all mirrors simultaneously and focused on the central one will create a portal for. After this, nothing. The story breaks off. But from accompanying documents, I learned that on the same night, an accident occurred in Gregory's laboratory. Mirrors were broken, the alchemist himself disappeared, and his apprentices were found in a state of madness, mumbling about the man who went into the glass. Gradually, I understand the whole picture. Valerie's installation isn't just contemporary art. It's a reconstruction of Gregory Blackwood's experiment, parts of which were scattered across the world. Lucian collects fragments, embeds them in a modern construction, uses technology to enhance the effect. And my wife, with her special perception, is to be the victim completing the ritual begun almost 300 years ago. All this sounds like a madman's ravings, but during my service I've seen things that didn't fit rational explanation. In an Afghan village, I met a blind old man who accurately described the ambush awaiting us beyond the pass. In Syria, I saw a shepherd speaking 7 languages, including ancient Aramaic, which isn't taught in schools. The world is full of inexplicable things. And even if I don't believe in the mystical power of Blackwood's mirrors, I definitely believe in his intention to kill my wife. And that's all I need to know for planning the operation. Changes in Valerie. At home, I notice increasingly disturbing changes in Valerie's behavior. She sits for hours in front of the bathroom mirror, not moving, as if in a trance. Her sketchbook is filled with strange symbols, spirals, intertwining lines, geometric patterns matching diagrams from Gregory's documents. When I ask about these drawings, she responds mechanically. They're resonance schemes. Lucian says they'll help me focus energy during the performance. Her voice sounds monotonous, without usual emotional tones. Her eyes seem foggy, like soldiers returning from particularly difficult missions, physically present but emotionally disconnected. Saturday morning, I find her in the studio. All walls are hung with mirrors of different sizes and shapes. She stands in the center, slowly turning, observing her reflections. "Valerie," I call out. She doesn't respond, continuing to rotate like a music box. "Valerie," I repeat louder. She stops but doesn't turn around. "I see light through reality's cracks," she tells her reflection. "He says I'm the key to the door that's always been here." I approach, carefully turn her to face me. Her pupils are dilated, gaze unfocused. "Who says Valerie?" "Blackwood." "Not Lucian," she smiles, a strange, absent smile. "The Watcher, the one waiting behind the glass. He's been observing us for so long, collecting our reflections. Soon he'll be able to return." This sounds like delirium, but in the context of Ellsworth's materials, it takes on an ominous meaning. I try to reach the real Valerie, the woman I fell in love with 5 years ago. "Remember our first meeting?" I ask, holding her gaze. "The Broken Reflections exhibition at Anderson Gallery. You stood by your installation of mirror fragments collected after the explosion in the old quarter. You said each fragment was a piece of someone's story, preserved in glass. Remember what you told me when I asked why you do this?" For a moment her eyes clear, as if a veil falls away. She grabs my hand with unexpected strength. "Mason, something's happening. I'm losing myself. He's in my head, mirrors watching. They show other versions of me and I don't know which is real." I hold her tightly, trying to keep her in this moment of clarity. "Who is the Watcher, Valerie? What does he want?" "He was the first to go into the mirror," her voice trembles. "Gregory, he didn't die, Mason. He crossed over and now wants to return, use me as a bridge." Suddenly her body shudders, eyes roll back. When she focuses again, Valerie blinks as if just waking up. "What were we talking about?" she asks with genuine confusion. "I got distracted for a minute." She doesn't remember our conversation, but I memorized every word, especially about Gregory who went into the mirror. Sounds crazy, but matches records of his mysterious disappearance. I need to act faster. Valerie is no longer fully in control. Whatever Blackwood is doing, hypnosis, drugs, or something more inexplicable, it's working. My wife is disappearing and someone or something else is taking her place. Ritual map. Dominic's computer provided me with details of the upcoming charity evening. Diagram of the modified installation. Mirror labyrinth transformed into a complex structure converging on a central platform. List of 108 invitees, the city's political and business elite. Detailed plan for the live performance with Valerie at the center. I need to see the installation changes with my own eyes. Using my position as night security, I enter the gallery after closing. Formally, I'm not on shift, but security knows my face. Nobody asks questions. The mirror labyrinth is no longer what it was a week ago. Additional panels, new mirrors in exquisite frames. Installation engineers completing work according to the scheme I saw at Blackwood's. I wait until the last worker leaves, then carefully examine the construction. The central part, a platform with metal fastenings, obviously for fixing the live installation, Valerie. Above the platform, a massive antique frame awaiting the final mirror fragment. Examining the back of mirror panels, I discover microchips with transmitters embedded in each frame. Thinnest conductors covered with silvery compound connect them into a unified scheme. From a technical standpoint, it's impressive. Blackwood combined ancient knowledge with modern technology. Each mirror has markings, a number and a small symbol, unique to each panel. I compare them with documentation found in Ellsworth's computer. Everything matches. This is an exact replica of the scheme described in Gregory Blackwood's diary, but scaled and enhanced by modern means. In the service room, I find a power distribution map for the installation. Consumption is colossal, 10 times more than required for ordinary lighting and special effects, so the system has components requiring serious power, possibly signal amplifiers for microchips, or something creating a special electromagnetic field. The technical part of the magical ritual becomes clearer. Blackwood uses electronics to enhance the effect described by his ancestor, that same reflection delay I noticed in recordings. But this doesn't explain the changes in Valerie, or strange reflections that move asynchronously. If all this is just a high-tech staging for psychological impact on the city's elite, why does my wife hear the Watcher's voice? Why does she talk to mirrors when she thinks no one sees her? There's something more here than just technology, something I can't explain by rational analysis. A sudden thought makes me stop. I take out a pocket mirror I carry for tactical purposes, inspecting corners and enclosed spaces. I raise it, observing my reflection against the installation. And I see it, a barely noticeable delay in movement when I turn my head, as if my reflection for a split second lags behind me, or resists the movement. I blink and the effect disappears. Maybe fatigue, maybe a play of light, or maybe in Blackwood's crazy theory there's a grain of truth. Tomorrow is the charity evening, the culmination of long months of preparation. Blackwood will complete his ritual. I must stop him. Leaving the gallery, I notice my reflection in the glass doors. For a moment, I think it smiles, though I'm absolutely certain my face maintained an expressionless look. Imagination or warning. Mason Reed, former SEAL Team 6 operator, will be ready for both. Chapter 3: The Darkness Within. For most people, war is just a word. For me, it's a way of life that seeped into my skin during 12 years with SEAL Team 6. War doesn't end when you leave the battlefield. It transforms, changes front, but continues inside. Now preparing for the gallery operation, I feel that familiar chill along my spine. Mental clarity, heightened senses, pre-combat readiness that turns the body into a weapon and the mind into a computer calculating probabilities. Enemy identified. Hostage determined. Objective clear. Disrupt Blackwood's ritual and extract Valerie alive. Military preparations. Our apartment bathroom has become a command center. Gallery blueprints spread across the floor, critical points marked in red. Evacuation plan, technical specifications of security systems, guard patrol schedules. In SEAL training they taught us, victory belongs to the better prepared. Valerie left 5 hours ago, final preparations with Lucian. Her voice sounded mechanical, eyes remained empty. Attempting to hold her by force would only draw Blackwood's attention. Sometimes you need to let the target think they control the situation. I opened the hidden compartment under the floorboards in the corner of the room. Here lies what Valerie doesn't know about: my emergency equipment. Modified Sig Sauer P365 with limited impact rounds. They won't kill a person with a proper shot, but will guarantee incapacitation. 2 silent deployment smoke grenades. Compact electronic jamming device, capable of blocking any wireless communication within a 15-meter radius for 30 seconds. Titanium Kabar fixed blade knife. High complexity lock pick set. All compact, easily concealable. I dress methodically, checking each element. Waiter's trousers, black with an additional inner pocket for the weapon. White shirt, roomy in the shoulders to not restrict movement. Level III concealable body armor, thin but capable of stopping a pistol bullet. Over it, a formal waiter's vest, perfectly concealing equipment. The counterfeit invitation is flawlessly produced. My new status, catering coordinator assistant, Alex Fowler. Dominic Ellsworth provided this pass, his last act of atonement for betraying my wife. Blackwood won't notice me, he said, handing over documents. I'm just another organizer in his eyes, but he'll be looking for you. He was right. I'll be moving in a high-risk zone. I take out the disguise kit from the closet. Contact lenses changing eye color from gray-blue to brown. Special wax for altering cheekbone and chin shape. Temporary hair dye, 2 shades darker than my usual color. Not a complete transformation, but enough for facial recognition cameras to give a low percentage match. I take my phone, hand-assembled with modified operating system, impossible to track. Activate encrypted communication channel with Ellsworth. If the situation goes to worst-case scenario, he's my insurance. Not ideal, but the only one available. Before leaving, I pause at the bathroom mirror. My movements are precise, economical as in combat operations, but something's wrong with the reflection. For a split second, it seems the man in the mirror moves with a slight delay. I shake my head. Self-suggestion, caused by all this madness with rituals and magical mirrors. Professional deformation, as psychologists at the Veterans Rehabilitation Center say. Don't let Blackwood get into your head too, I tell my reflection. I swear it smiles back. Evening of illusions. The gallery of contemporary art moonlight tide glows with lights. Red carpet stretches from the main entrance, lined with journalists, photographers, security in tuxedos with barely noticeable earpieces. I enter through the service entrance. My legend is impeccable. Alex Fowler, 32, in catering for 5 years, specialization, elite events. ID attached to chest pocket, gaze professionally indifferent. Turnstile scans QR code, system gives green light. The kitchen buzzes with activity. Chefs finalizing elaborate appetizers, bartenders mixing cocktails, coordinator distributing final instructions. I blend into a group of waiters receiving champagne trays. New guy, asks a dark-haired girl beside me. First day, I nod. Alex. Lauren, stick with me, I'll show you the zones. Perfect, natural cover and access to information simultaneously. We exit into the gallery's main hall. The space is transformed beyond recognition. The ordinary gallery has become a futuristic installation. Strobe lights, projections on walls, plasma screens displaying fragments of distorted faces. But the main attraction, the mirror labyrinth in the center of the hall. Valerie's modified installation now occupies almost 300 square meters. Mirror panels of varying heights and widths create a complex route, gradually narrowing to the central platform. Unlike the original version, where everyone could choose their own path, this construction deliberately leads visitors along a spiral to the center. Guests are already arriving. Evening gowns, tuxedos, jewels on necks and wrists, smiles, champagne, small talk. No one suspects that instead of a charity evening, they've been invited to a ritual sacrifice. I maneuver between groups of visitors with a tray, professionally invisible, systematically scanning the room, noting details. 6 guards with obvious military bearing, active communication earpieces, concealed holsters under jackets. 2 technicians controlling lighting and sound. Gallery staff, most in their usual positions, but 3 new ones with tense movements and attentive gazes. More of Blackwood's operatives, masquerading as employees. Blackwood himself appears at 2017. Impeccable tuxedo, perfect posture, silver-streaked hair arranged hair by hair. Beside him, gallery curator, director, city mayor. The collector radiates confidence and charisma. His right hand, with a scar in the shape of a spiral, is hidden in a perfect white glove. And then I see Valerie. My heart skips a beat, though I'm prepared for this moment. She looks nothing like my wife. Pale, with sunken eyes, face frozen like a mask. Her chestnut hair contrasts with white dress of ritual design, complex geometric construction of dense fabric with silver embroidery repeating symbols she's been drawing these last weeks. Around her neck, a massive silver ornament with central blue stone. Blackwood leads her to the center of the hall for a welcome speech. Valerie moves mechanically, like a marionette. I inconspicuously approach, continuing to offer champagne to guests, coming within hearing range. Dear friends, Blackwood's voice envelops the audience. Today we've gathered to witness not just art, but true transformation. Ms. Reed will guide us all through mirrors of perception to true vision, to what's hidden behind everyday reality. Applause, admiring gazes. No one notices how one of Blackwood's assistants discreetly pours clear liquid from a tiny vial into Valerie's glass. She drinks automatically, by Blackwood's silent command. The live installation begins precisely at 21:30, continues the collector. Until then, enjoy the conversation and exquisite refreshments. And of course, first impressions of the updated reflection labyrinth, which now includes fragments from my collection of 18th century mirrors recovered from historic shipwrecks. Valerie smiles an empty smile. Her facial expression doesn't change when she turns to different groups of guests. Not a living person, a doll controlled by invisible strings. While the public admires the updated installation, I notice Blackwood whispering something to his security chief. The man tenses, his gaze starting to scan the hall. They're looking for me. They suspected I might appear, and now they've activated the search. I slowly retreat to a less illuminated part of the hall, continuing to play the role of attentive waiter. After 20 minutes, I see Blackwood leading Valerie to the labyrinth's center. Operation time is shrinking. I need to act immediately. First contact. I use the cocktail hour commotion to approach the labyrinth's edge. Guests enter and exit, laugh, take selfies against endless reflections. I glide between groups, inconspicuous in my waiter uniform, until I'm within several meters of Valerie. Blackwood is distracted by conversation with an influential politician. This is my chance. I quickly intercept Valerie by the arm, drawing her into a side corridor of the mirror labyrinth, where reflections hide us from outside eyes. Valerie, I say quietly, removing tinted glasses, part of my disguise. It's me, Mason. She looks at me with unfocused gaze, pupils so dilated that iris is barely visible. Drug in the champagne, I realize. Something causing high suggestibility and dissociative state. Mason, her voice sounds distant. I can't, he's in my head, mirrors. Listen carefully, I grip her shoulders, trying to break through the haze. Blackwood is using you. This isn't a performance. It's a ritual and you're in danger. We need to get out of here. For a moment, her gaze clears. The Watcher, he's waiting, behind reflections. Gregory didn't die, Mason. He went into the mirror and now wants to return, through me. I know, but I won't let that happen. Hold on, I'll get us. Suddenly, her face contorts with horror. He sees, she whispers, looking over my shoulder. He always sees through reflections. I quickly turn and see in the opposite mirror a reflection of Blackwood's guard. He stands around the corridor's bend, not seeing us directly, but in reflection our figures are clearly visible. His face changes from puzzlement to recognition. Military bearing, scar through eyebrow, former special forces, I determine. Our gazes meet in the mirror, professional recognition. It's him, into the guard's radio. Subject in Sector D7. I instantly assess the situation. Valerie is in such a state that extracting her unnoticed won't work. Need to buy time, create a diversion. Meet me at the center, I tell Valerie, knowing she'll head there anyway according to Blackwood's plan. Whatever happens, remember, I'm here to protect you. I release her, allowing her to return to the route prescribed by the ritual. I turn to the approaching guard, overturn the tray with glasses, creating commotion and blocking his path. Startled exclamations from guests, clinking of broken glass, champagne on expensive shoes, perfect distraction. I'm already in motion, sliding between mirror panels. From the corner of my eye, I see the guard calling reinforcements. 3 professional operatives against 1 special forces soldier in a mirror labyrinth. Usually I'd say chances are even. But here, among distorted reflections, where reality blends with illusion, the advantage is mine. The chase begins. A game of hide and seek among endless reflections, where everyone can be both hunter and prey. Dance of shadows. The mirror labyrinth is the perfect environment for evasion tactics and sudden strikes. I glide between panels, using the installation's architecture, corridors, niches, unexpected dead ends, appearing and disappearing in a kaleidoscope of reflections. The guards have split up, trying to surround me. Good tactics, if not for the space's peculiarities. Here, among endless reflections, smaller groups become more vulnerable. A lone individual is harder to track through mirrors than a coordinating pair. I wait, evaluating their movements. The first guard, youngest of the three, acts too predictably. He's trained for open confrontations, not this environment. Choosing a moment when he's isolated from colleagues, I appear from a blind spot behind him. Strike to the carotid artery, precisely calculated pressure. Not to kill, to incapacitate. As he loses consciousness, I catch him, carefully lowering him to the floor behind one of the mirror panels. Take his earpiece, insert into my ear. Now I hear their coordination. Sector B clear, checking C4. Received. I'm at the northern entrance to the labyrinth. Knowledge of their positions, critical advantage. I move silently, using the labyrinth's acoustic properties. Sounds reflect off mirrors, creating false sources. Deliberately touch a panel in one part of the labyrinth, appear in the opposite. The second guard moves more professionally. Checks corners, controls blind spots, but he's betrayed by a basic perception principle. Humans trust their eyes. In this installation, a fatal mistake. I allow him to see my reflection in a distant mirror as if I'm 10 meters ahead. He accelerates, going on a fence, not noticing I'm behind. Reflection of reflection, optical illusion created by specific mirror arrangement. When he passes by me, I attack. Strike to the solar plexus deprives him of breath. The next switches off consciousness. Keir, report position, comes through the earpiece. No answer. Keir, Bradley, come in. The third guard, judging by voice, most experienced. He understands something's wrong. I hear him switch to a separate channel. Potential security breach in the labyrinth. 2 operatives not responding, requesting backup. Time is shrinking. I must neutralize him before backup arrives. This operative moves more cautiously, avoiding open spaces, checking reflections in a pocket mirror. Smart move. He corners me in the western part of the labyrinth. Narrow corridor ending in a triangular niche surrounded by mirrors. Only exit past him. End of game, Reed, he says, producing a silenced pistol. Come out with hands up. He knows my name, knows who I am. I assess options. Combat in confined space disadvantageous. Need to create advantage. I take out my pocket mirror, holding it at such an angle as to create a false reflection of my position. Simple but effective trick. The guard sees my approach from the right, though I'm actually moving from the left. When he fires at the false target, I'm behind him. He's good, senses movement, turns faster than I expected. We engage in close combat, blocks, strikes, holds. His technique reveals special training, possibly SAS or equivalent unit. You don't understand, he whispers when we clinch. The Watcher has waited centuries. This is more than just a ritual. I manage to apply a blood choke, cutting blood flow to the brain. Before losing consciousness, he forces out last words. Lighthouse, all leads to the beacon. His body goes limp. I check pulse, stable. Search him and find a strange discovery. Miniature transmitter in ear, different from standard security gear. I insert it, hear Blackwood's voice. We begin now, they won't hold him. No time left. I move toward the labyrinth's center, every nerve, every muscle in combat readiness. Final confrontation inevitable. Performance with sacrifice. The central part of the labyrinth is transformed beyond recognition. The octagonal room, where visitors once contemplated their multiple reflections, has become a ritual space. The floor is covered with complex geometric pattern of luminous lines. In center, a platform resembling an astronomical instrument, concentric circles rotating independently, with metal fastenings for hands and feet. Above the construction, a massive antique mirror frame, still empty. Valerie is tied to this construction, her arms and legs fixed in a position reminiscent of the Vitruvian Man, classical symbol of perfect proportions. Her white dress contrasts with the dark metal of restraints, eyes closed, face peaceful, as if sleeping. Blackwood stands nearby, having already changed his elegant tuxedo for ceremonial clothes, long mantle of deep blue with silver embroidery, gloves removed, and I see his right hand with characteristic spiral scar. Around, the city's elite, positioned around the central room's perimeter. They observe with admiration and slight bewilderment, taking what's happening for avant-garde contemporary art. None understand the real nature of the event they're attending. Blackwood raises his hands in theatrical gesture. Dear guests, his voice amplified by hidden speakers, creating a multi-voice effect. Today we stand at the boundary of worlds. Through Ms. Reed's art, through my collection, and through your energy as witnesses, we will open the doors of perception. Light changes, becomes pulsating. Mirrors around begin vibrating with a low humming sound. Reflections distort, like water surface into which someone threw a stone. Through this woman, continues Blackwood, art and reality will become one. Boundaries will dissolve and we'll see truth behind the veil of ordinary. I work my way closer through the crowd of spectators. Blackwood is accelerating his plan, sensing the threat. From a case beside him, he extracts two objects, central mirror fragment in antique microframe and a stiletto, thin ceremonial dagger with characteristic engraving on blade. I recognize the weapon, have seen similar ones in museums. Stilettos of this shape weren't used for combat but for ritual killings, thin blade perfect for penetration between ribs, straight to the heart. Minimal bleeding, almost instant death. Reflection becomes reality. Reality becomes reflection. Blackwood raises the mirror fragment, inserting it into the central frame above Valerie. The circle closes after almost 3 centuries. When the fragment locks into place, something inexplicable happens. All mirrors around flash with bluish light, as if illuminated from within. Reflections distort more strongly, begin moving with noticeable delay relative to originals. The audience applauds, taking this for special effects of contemporary art. But I see strange expressions on some guests' faces, mixture of disorientation and vague anxiety. Something's happening with their perception. Blackwood raises the stiletto, stepping toward Valerie. Final act, merger of art and life form in essence. I understand. The ritual requires the conductor's blood. Blackwood intends to kill Valerie here and now before hundreds of witnesses who will think they're seeing a performance. The audience falls silent. Light focuses on Blackwood and Valerie. Remaining space plunges into half-darkness. Perfect moment for my intervention, but I face an unexpected problem. Shot through space. I fight my way to the inner circle, but Blackwood activates the final element of his system. Light reflected from outer mirrors refracts through complex system of lenses and prisms, creating holographic effect. Dozens of identical Blackwood reflections appear around the platform, each exactly repeating his movements. Optical illusion of such complexity level that even my trained eye can't determine which is the real Blackwood and which are reflections. All simultaneously raise stilettos, approaching Valerie from different sides. I draw my pistol but hesitate. A wrong shot could hit an innocent spectator or, worse, Valerie herself. Need to identify the real Blackwood among dozens of identical figures. Blackwood senses my presence. His voice echoes through the hall. And here's our soldier. Think you can stop what began centuries ago. For a bullet to reach its target, you need to know where that target really is. He's right. In this kaleidoscope of reflections, I can't confidently determine which figure is material. It's like trying to shoot a ghost. And then something unexpected happens. Valerie, who seemed immersed in trance, suddenly opens her eyes. At the moment when drug effect should be maximal, she somehow gains clarity of consciousness. Her gaze fixes not on approaching Blackwood figures, but on one specific detail, Collector's right hand, where characteristic spiral scar is visible. This mark is visible only at certain angle of lighting, and only on the real Blackwood. Our eyes meet across the central platform space. Silent understanding. She slightly tilts her head, indicating direction. Through illusions and reflections, she shows me the truth. This is a moment of absolute concentration, familiar to every sniper. The world narrows to aiming point. Sounds fade. Time slows. I analyze mirror arrangement, reflection angles, light trajectory. Recall countless Team 6 trainings where we were taught to make impossible shots, through gaps with ricochet by sound. Solution comes in a split second. I don't take direct shot at Blackwood, but calculated ricochet. The bullet must reflect off 3 consecutive mirrors at specific angles to hit Blackwood's hand at the moment when stiletto almost touches Valerie's neck. Calculation, breath, adjustment for refraction angle shot. The sound of the shot, muffled by built-in suppressor, almost lost in background music. The bullet flies along complex trajectory, reflecting off mirrors exactly as I calculated. Physics and geometry in pure form, multiplied by years of training and intuition. Chapter 4, Final Reflections. Shattered Mirror. After my shot, the gallery transformed into epicenter of chaos. Blackwood's stiletto clanged against metal construction, flying from his shot-through hand. Spotlights, previously focused on the live installation, suddenly flooded all space with harsh, merciless radiance. Charity evening guests finally saw reality through art illusion. Valerie, tied to strange mechanism, and Blackwood with bloody hand and dagger at his feet. First second stupor like before an explosion. Then wave of panic. Screams, stampede at exits, overturned glasses, glittering shards on marble floor. Security tries to maintain order, but even professionals are confused by intermediate position between crime and performance. Blackwood, clutching wounded hand, smiles strangely. Blood seeps through his fingers, drips onto central mirror in antique frame. With each drop, glass seems to come alive, pulsing from within with bluish light. "You cannot stop what has already begun," he shouts over crowd noise. "Fragments in each of you, he sees through all reflections, always has." In his eyes, not desperation of loser, but ecstasy of believer witnessing miracle. This concerns me more than everything that happened before. I make my way through retreating crowd to central platform. Valerie still secured in metal bracelets, her eyes half closed, breathing shallow. Fixation system more complex than appeared from distance. Numerous locks and fastenings, each with separate mechanism. "Hold on," I say, freeing her wrists first. "It's over, you're safe." But something in her gaze suggests otherwise. When I finally remove last restraint from her ankle, she falls into my arms, weak as rag doll. Her skin cold despite heat in hall. "Light inside," she mumbles. "He waits, beyond the boundary, always waited." Meanwhile police arrive, their sirens cutting night. Officers surround Blackwood. He doesn't resist, allowing handcuffs, maintaining mysterious smile, as if knowing something inaccessible to others. "This isn't the end, Mr. Reed," he says as officers lead him past us. "Just the tearing of veil. He's already here among us. Not in one mirror in all. Beacon. Everything always leads to the beacon." In his eyes strange gleam, unlike madness. Rather absolute certainty. In evacuation commotion, I notice movement by broken mirror in installation center. Blackwood's lab assistant, the same one I saw at his estate, quickly collects shards in special container lined with dark velvet. He moves methodically, selecting only certain fragments, ignoring others. "Stop," I shout, trying to attract nearest policeman's attention. "Need to stop him. Those shards evidence." But my voice drowns in general noise. When officer finally reacts and turns in indicated direction, Assistant has already disappeared, taking what might be key element of entire puzzle. I focus on Valerie. Right now her condition is more important than pursuit. Paramedics arrive simultaneously with police, and I hand my wife to their care, explaining she was under influence of unknown drug. We're going to St. Elizabeth Hospital, medic informs me, securing IV drip. You can follow us. I nod, casting final glance at ruined installation. Mirrors, recently pulsing with blue light, now look ordinary. But something in them has changed, barely perceptible shift in perspective, like window frames slightly askew after earthquake. When ambulance doors close and vehicle tears away, I get unpleasant feeling we're being watched by thousands of invisible eyes. From every reflective surface, from every shop window and puddle on pavement. Illusion of return. Valerie is discharged from hospital after 3 days. Diagnosis sounds safe and rational. Narcotic poisoning by unknown psychoactive substance with pronounced hallucinogenic effect. Toxicologists found traces of complex chemical cocktail in her blood, including LSD derivatives, ketamine, and rare alkaloid from South American plants causing high suggestibility. Such substances can cause temporary disorientation, perception disturbance, and increased susceptibility to external suggestion, explains neurologist when I take her home. But effects are reversible. Complete recovery may take from several days to couple weeks. I sign papers, listen to recommendations, receive prescriptions for sedatives and vitamins. Everything under control. Rational medical approach to what happened. This should be reassuring, but I feel doctors see only surface, like guests at charity evening. At home, Valerie seems physically and emotionally exhausted, but more conscious than in recent weeks. She moves slowly, as if still adapting to her own body, but her gaze is clear, focused. Want to eat? I ask, helping her settle on couch. Can make an omelet or order something. Mason, her voice sounds fragile but determined. What happened? I remember fragments. Blackwood Gallery, strange ritual, but everything's like in fog. How did I end up center of all this? I sit beside her, choosing words. How to explain this nightmare without aggravating her condition. Blackwood manipulated you, I begin. Used drugs, psychological techniques. He believed in some ancient maritime magic connected with mirrors. Your installation became part of his insane plan. He wanted to use you as conductor for some ritual. I don't say he planned to kill her. Not now when she's so vulnerable. Valerie listens, her face growing paler. When I reach the gallery night and interrupted ritual, she closes her eyes. I remember blood, she whispers. His blood on mirror and light. Cold blue light as if from ocean depths. Then she opens her eyes and in them, sudden realization. Dominic, her voice trembles. I cheated on you with Dominic, in the labyrinth. Her fingers dig into sofa armrest, knuckles white from tension. It was like I wasn't myself, Mason. Blackwood. He said I was special, that only through me would art gain true power. I knew it was manipulation, but couldn't resist, as if part of me watched from sidelines while another followed his orders. I take her hand, feeling how it trembles. You were under drug influence, not your fault. You, forgive me, disbelief in her voice. Nothing to forgive, I reply, and it's true. My anger, my jealousy, all directed at Blackwood and Ellsworth. Not Valerie. She was victim, not guilty party. She leans against me, and we sit like this for several minutes. Seems like fragments of our life start fitting back together, that we can return to normalcy. The illusion lasts until midnight. I wake to sound of footsteps. Valerie isn't beside me in bed. Moonlight penetrates blinds, drawing silvery stripes on floor. I follow these stripes to bathroom from where quiet whisper comes. Door ajar. Through crack I see Valerie's back, her tense posture before mirror. She hasn't turned on light and her figure seems just slightly denser than shadow. He was always part of me, I hear her whisper. Even before we met, I felt his presence in reflections. He waited for me to find fragments. I'm about to interrupt this eerie monologue, but stop when I see what's happening in mirror. Valerie's lips move, pronouncing one set of words, but her reflection seems to answer her, forming different phrases. This must be play of light, optical illusion enhanced by my fatigue and tension of recent days. Rational explanations line up in my consciousness, but they all collapse when I see Valerie's reflection smile, though her actual face remains motionless. I retreat silently, return to bed, pretending sleep when she returns. Her skin, when she lies beside me, colder than it should be. Something returned from gallery with Valerie, something that wasn't in her before, and I'm not sure it can be cured with sedatives and vitamins. Division. After a week, symptoms become impossible to ignore. Valerie loses orientation in space, sometimes stopping mid-room, looking confused as if not understanding where she is. She talks to mirrors, not just in bathroom but to any reflective surface. Kettle, window glass, screen of turned-off TV. But most disturbing, her new studio. Room I re-equipped for her after discharge now hung with mirrors of all possible sizes and shapes. Some she bought, others found, still others seemingly brought from somewhere. Walls, ceiling, even parts of floor covered with reflective surfaces, creating endless kaleidoscope of images. Why do you need so many mirrors? I ask, standing at studio threshold, hesitating to enter. Valerie sits in room center on low stool, surrounded by her own reflections, multiplied to infinity. I see different versions of myself, she replies, not turning. In each mirror, another Valerie. Some are me at different moments in time, others me in worlds that might exist, and some. She falls silent, shoulders tensing. And some aren't me at all. I step into room, wincing from dizziness this visual chaos causes. Valerie, this is drug effect, hallucinations. No, she turns sharply, and I see her eyes redden from sleep deprivation. These aren't hallucinations. I've always seen what others don't. Remember I told you how I perceive music in colors and shapes, how I feel textures where others see only surfaces. My synesthesia isn't illness, Mason. It's gift. I just now see more. She stands, approaches me, takes my hands. In this moment her gaze clears, as if veil falls away, and I see my Valerie, woman I fell in love with 5 years ago. Something's happening to me, she says more quietly. I feel like I'm losing myself. Part of me stayed there, inside glass, as if I split into fragments and not all returned. Her fingers squeeze mine with unexpected strength. And what returned? Not only me. Something ancient watches from every reflection. It's patient. It waited almost 3 centuries, and now uses me as bridge. Her words frighteningly echo what Blackwood said, as if they've both become part of same insane worldview. One morning situation reaches critical point. I enter bedroom after jogging and see Valerie standing before vanity mirror, her hair disheveled, face expressing absolute terror. Valerie, I call out, what happened? She turns and I don't recognize her facial expression, pure, unclouded fury. You, she screams, backing away. Not real, imposter. Valerie, it's me, Mason. I try to speak calmly, approaching slowly with open palms. Liar, she grabs desk lamp, swings. Real Mason is in reflection. I see him there behind glass. He's trying to warn me. I have to disarm her carefully but firmly. When I hold her, she fights with unexpected strength, then suddenly goes limp, eyes roll back and she loses consciousness. At hospital, doctors diagnose post-traumatic syndrome with psychotic episodes. Prescribe tranquilizers and neuroleptics, promising medication therapy will stabilize her condition. But after 2 days, it's clear medications only worsen situation. Valerie becomes a shadow, apathetic, empty-gazed, unable to focus. Her only sign of life, when she sees her reflection. Then her eyes light with strange gleam, and she reaches for mirror as if wanting to pass through it. Doctors shrug helplessly. Psychiatrist suggests more aggressive treatment, electroconvulsive therapy. I refuse, take Valerie from hospital. If traditional medicine is powerless, perhaps non-traditional sources are worth consulting. Those who understand nature of what we've encountered. Church of Shadows. Old University Folklore Department is located in northern part of campus, away from main buildings. Structure of gray stone, darkened by time and neglect, resembles fortress more than academic facility. Narrow windows admit minimum light, heavy wooden door creaks when I push it. Inside, semi-darkness, smell of old books and dust. Few students, mostly graduate level, bent over ancient texts. In far office, hunched figure in tweed jacket arranges fresh coffee cups before side desk. I'm looking for Professor Clark, I say quietly, approaching. The academic straightens, and I see his face, ancient, wrinkled, with deeply set dark eyes that seem to see more than surface shows. You found him, my friend, his voice creaky like old floorboards. How can I help? I don't know where to start. How explain in rational words irrational experience of recent weeks? But something in his gaze suggests this man won't dismiss my story as sign of mental disorder. My wife, something happened to her, something connected with mirrors and ancient maritime ritual. At mention of maritime ritual, his eyes narrow. He looks around as if checking no one's eavesdropping, then signals me to follow. Not here, he says. Too many ears, too many eyes, even an academic sanctuary. We descend narrow spiral staircase to archive under department. Ancient room with low ceiling, walls of unprocessed stone, only light source, several desk lamps with green shades. Here stored books and manuscripts, some looking centuries old. You're not first who comes to me with similar story, says Professor Clark, retrieving leather folio from top shelf. Though last time was almost 20 years ago, young couple from Portland. She also changed after encounter with certain mirrors. He opens book, and I see ancient engravings depicting rituals around mirror constructions. People in strange clothes, surrounding person in center of complex mirror pattern. Cult of guardians of reflected light, explains Professor. Existed since 15th century, officially destroyed during witch trials in 1723, but some practices continued secretly. He turns page, showing alchemical laboratory drawing with central mirror surrounded by smaller ones. They believed mirrors aren't just reflective surfaces, but portals between worlds. With proper glass treatment and special lighting conditions, one could create living mirror capable of holding part of viewer's soul. Next page contains detailed instructions for creating such mirrors, special alloys for amalgam, geometric proportions of frame, special polishing process. According to these texts, continues Professor, chief master of this art was one Gregory, whose surname in different sources spelled differently. He created perfect mirror that could not just capture soul parts, but hold complete human soul. Gregory Blackwood, I say. Professor Clark startles. You know this name. His descendant, Lucian Blackwood, tried to recreate his ritual, used my wife as conductor. The academic crosses himself, mumbling short prayer. Ritual was interrupted, he asks. Yes, I stopped it before. It could be completed. But blood was spilled on mirror. His fingers gripped my arm with unexpected strength. Yes, I recall drops of Blackwood's blood falling on central fragment. Not much, but yes. Professor Clark closes eyes, as if in prayer or deep regret. Even incomplete ritual could cause soul division in your wife, he says finally. Part of her essence might be captured by mirror and held there while something else might partially enter her. Something else, I repeat. What waited on other side? Professor points to engraving depicting human figure halfway emerging from mirror. Maybe Gregory himself. According to these texts, he didn't die in 1723. He went into mirror, becoming first who could completely cross boundary between worlds, but not last who tried to return. I remember Valerie's words about watcher who waited and something ancient that watches from every reflection. Could this really be possible? How can I help her? I ask, pushing aside doubts. Doesn't matter if I believe all this. Only matters how to save Valerie. Only one way to heal, answers Professor, turning pages to section written in small print. Find and destroy central ritual mirror, one connecting all fragments. Only then can your wife's soul fully return to her body. He turns several more pages, showing destruction ritual scheme. But this must be done with special caution, he warns. Mirror will defend itself. It uses your own fears, your doubts, your strongest emotions against you, and one waiting behind reflection won't easily release his prey. I study instructions, memorizing key points. Much sounds like superstition and mysticism, but after all I've seen, I can't dismiss possibility that ancient texts hide truth. Where should I look for central mirror? I ask. It should be where greatest power concentrates, answers Professor. In place connected with first ritual, perhaps where Gregory lived or worked. Leaving department, I already know my next direction. Beacon, Blackwood said before arrest. Same landmark his guard mentioned. Now I need to find where this beacon is and what connects it with Gregory Blackwood's story. Guardian of Reflections. Police evidence storage isn't place you just walk into. But my connections in law enforcement, remaining from service time, open some doors. Detective Morrison, leading Blackwood's case, agrees to meet me in unofficial setting. Central mirror disappeared, he reports, stirring coffee in diner across from station. Removed from storage 3 days ago by special order. Feds took it, blamed everything on national security. Feds, I ask, FBI. If only, he shakes head. Some agency I've never heard of. Specific access code, documents with seals I've never seen before. Everything done perfectly legally but smells like rat. He continues, lowering voice. And something else. Blackwood's dead. Suicide in pretrial detention cell. Hanged himself with bedsheet 6 hours after arrest. Surveillance camera accidentally turned off for 15 minutes. Guard stepped away. Classic setup. I feel chill run down spine. Too many coincidences, too many accidents. I've got something else. Morrison pulls folded paper from inner pocket. Information on Blackwood's relatives. Only living one maternal great uncle. Solomon Davenport, 92. Lighthouse keeper on Northern Point. Hermit, hasn't left island in almost 40 years. Northern Point, small piece of land 30 miles from coast. Abandoned fishing village, ancient lighthouse, several utility buildings. Perfect place for someone wanting to remain unnoticed. Thanks, I say, taking note. This might save my wife. Be careful, warns Morrison. Whatever's happening, it's beyond ordinary crime. If people who took mirror get interested in you, I can't help. 20 hours later, I'm en route to island. Left Valerie under watch of my former teammate from SEAL Medical Corps. Only person I can trust wife to in such condition. Sarah doesn't ask unnecessary questions and knows how to handle patients in crisis state. Rented boat glides through dark water. Lighthouse grows from pre-dawn fog, tall stone tower on rocky ledge. Structure looks much older than its official age, as if stood here for centuries, despite historical records claiming lighthouse built in 1890s. I dock on leeward side where rocks form natural protection from waves. Before me, narrow path leading to buildings. Old keeper's house, sheds, lighthouse itself, all look well maintained despite age. Someone clearly cares for this place. House door unlocked, strange circumstance for such secluded location. Inside, ascetic setting, Simple furniture, bookshelves, antique pendulum clock on wall, but no signs of life. Hearth cold, dishes clean and put away, bed neatly made. I examine rooms one by one until stumbling upon basement door. It's not just locked, protected by complex mechanical lock that looks inappropriately modern in this ancient house. My breaking skills prove useful. After 3 minutes, door opens. Staircase leads deep underground, much deeper than ordinary basement should be. Walls of rough stone, places damp from condensation. Air becomes colder with each step down. Finally, I reach bottom. Before me, tunnel leading toward lighthouse. Tunnel that shouldn't exist. Distance too great, engineering solution too complex for standard 19th century construction. I move along it cautiously, keeping gun ready. After 200 meters, tunnel widens, opening spacious underground chamber directly beneath lighthouse base, and what I see there makes me freeze in place. Room completely lined with mirrors. Hundreds, maybe thousands of mirrors of different sizes and shapes cover every inch of walls, ceiling, even parts of floor. They're arranged at different angles, creating reflection kaleidoscope where orientation easily lost. In room center, old man in armchair, facing huge mirror in antique frame, installed on stone pedestal. This mirror doesn't reflect room. It seems filled with slowly moving bluish fog. Old man doesn't move when I enter. His withered body resembles mummy, skin almost transparent with protruding veins, but his eyes, unnaturally bright blue, alive and attentive. They track me through reflection in central mirror. Welcome, soldier. His voice sounds simultaneously ancient and strong. Lucian said you might come. I raise gun, aiming either at old man or mirror. Haven't decided which presents greater threat. Who are you? I ask, though already guessing answer. In this body I was known as Solomon Davenport, answers old man. Before that was Edward Blackwood and many more names over centuries, but originally, Gregory, always Gregory. I scan room, noticing oddities. On walls, portraits of same man in different clothes corresponding to different eras. Oldest, judging by style, dated 1724. In each portrait, same piercing blue eyes, same examining gaze. You're late, soldier, continues old man in voice I recognize. It sounds almost identical to Lucian Blackwood's. Lucian was merely instrument, as was your wife. Fragments returned home, process irreversible. What have you done to Valerie? My voice remains firm despite surrealistic situation. Nothing, old man smiles, revealing yellowed teeth. She opened door, with her art her gift to see what's hidden from others, her soul, special, perfect conductor between worlds. I step towards central mirror, but old man unexpectedly rises from armchair. His movements don't match age and body frailty. They're fluid, precise, with strength that seems impossible. You don't understand what you've encountered, soldier, he says, voice changing, becoming deeper, resonating from mirrored walls. I've existed beyond boundary almost 3 centuries. Watched, learned, waited. Human limitations no longer constrain me. And I realize it's true. Before me, not decrepit old man, but something merely using this body as temporary vessel. Something much more ancient and dangerous. Chardin palm. He lunges at me with inhuman speed. I barely manage to dodge, his hand with unnaturally elongated fingers passing millimeters from my throat. I fire twice, but he seemingly anticipates my actions, easily evading line of fire. I understand his advantage. Mirrors. They're arranged so he sees me from any angle, predicting every movement. Room designed as perfect trap for those not understanding its principle. We circle room, I trying to maintain distance, he continuously attacking, moving so fast sometimes I feel like fighting several opponents simultaneously. His body, despite age, possesses strength and flexibility of trained athlete. Your wife now part of something greater, he says between attacks. like others whose reflections I've collected for centuries, small soul fragments feeding me, allowing me to exist between worlds. He strikes blow I block with forearm, but pain piercing, like collision with metal rod, not human flesh. Body just vessel, he continues, as if reading my thoughts. This one almost 100 years old but serves its purpose. Soon I'll need new one, younger, stronger. I begin tiring. Each movement becomes slightly slower, each block slightly less effective. He corners me where mirrors form semicircle, cutting off retreat paths. In desperate lunge, I throw myself forward, trying to break through to central mirror, one that, according to Professor, is key to entire system. But old man intercepts me, his fingers closing around my throat with steel-trap strength. You thought you could defeat something existing for centuries, he hisses, lifting me off floor. I survived Inquisition, revolutions, wars. I've seen empires fall and new ones born. What are you against this, soldier? Darkness encroaches on vision, lungs burning from oxygen lack. I realize I'm losing, that my military training useless against something not obeying human physiology laws. Then I notice strange thing. Antique pendulum clock hanging on only wall section without mirrors. Its reflection visible in mirrors around, but pendulum moves at different speeds in different reflections. In some, slower, others, faster than original. Sudden understanding pierces me. Time and reflections flows differently. This isn't just visual effect, it's fundamental property of Gregory's mirrors, and possibly his vulnerability. Gathering last strength, I don't try to attack old man. Instead pull knife and throw it not at opponent, but at central mirror on pedestal. Blade cuts air and embeds in ancient artifact surface. For moment nothing happens, just thin crack running from impact point. Then mirror shatters into hundreds of fragments with deafening sound, like 1,000 voices screaming. Grip on my throat weakens. I fall to floor, gasping for air, and see old man recoiling, face contorting with pain and rage. What have you done? He screams, but voice no longer as powerful. Centuries of work. With horror and amazement, I watch his body beginning to disintegrate. Skin shrivels, cracks, exposing bones. Eyes, still bright blue, burn with fury but gradually dim. He tries to reach me, but his limbs no longer obey. During a minute that feels like eternity, what was Gregory Blackwood transforms into desiccated mummy, crumbling at slightest air movement. From the great alchemist who survived centuries, only handful of dust and darkened bones remain. All mirrors in room dull, their surfaces covered with crack networks, as if sympathetic response to central one's destruction. Blue light that pulsed within them vanishes, leaving only ordinary reflections. I rise feeling strange silence, not just absence of sound, but absence of presence which, I now realize, pressed upon consciousness entire time I was in this room. My phone rings, making me flinch. It's Sarah watching over Valerie. Mason, her voice sounds excited but with notes of relief. Don't know what you did, but Valerie just came to herself, really came to herself. She's disoriented but recognizes me, asks coherent questions. I'll be there soon, I reply, feeling relief wave wash over me. Tell her it's over. Leaving underground room, I notice how one central mirror shard strangely glimmers, retaining echo of blue light. Almost unconsciously, I pick it up, sharp fragment size of quarter. When I touch it, feel slight static electricity discharge and instinctively clench hand. Shard cuts into palm, leaving shallow but painful cut. I want to throw it away, but something stops me. Instead, place shard in pocket, deciding to deal with it later. Right now priority, return to Valerie. 3 days later, Valerie and I return to semblance of normal life. She's completely healed physically, but suffers from partial amnesia, remembers nothing about recent months, doesn't remember Blackwood, ritual, her mirror obsession. Doctors say it's psyche's protective mechanism, blocking traumatic memories. I don't insist on their return. Some things better left forgotten. Learning from me about infidelity with Dominic Ellsworth. Only part of events I deemed necessary to tell. She cries, begging forgiveness, genuinely horrified by her actions. I don't understand how I could do this, she says, wiping tears. It's completely unlike me. I feel like it was someone else in my body. It was, I reply, embracing her, and now that someone is gone forever. We decide to remove all mirrors from home, replace them with simple functional surfaces where necessary. As if by silent agreement, neither wants to see reflections more than absolutely necessary. On last evening, completing this process, I embrace Valerie, watching sunset through our living room window. We don't need reflections to see love, I say, kissing her temple. She smiles, leaning against me, and at this moment I notice something gleaming in my palm. The mirror shard I collected at Lighthouse somehow lodged deep under skin. I don't remember wound being so serious, but now fragment seems grown into flesh, becoming part of me. Most troubling, it pulses with faint blue light in rhythm with my heartbeat. I close hand, hiding glow from Valerie. Perhaps tomorrow I'll see doctor about removing shard. Perhaps it's just light play in my imagination, overloaded by recent events. Or perhaps mirror hunt isn't completed yet. And now I carry particle of mirror world inside me, constant reminder that boundary between reality and reflection is thinner than we're accustomed to think. I hold Valerie tighter, as if fearing she might disappear, and deep inside I feel shard in my palm growing slightly warmer, almost alive. As we stand bathed in dying sunlight, I can't shake the feeling that something watches us through every reflective surface in sight. The windows, my watch face, even Valerie's eyes when she turns to me. "Are you okay?" she asks, noticing my tension. "Just tired," I lie, forcing a smile. "It's been a long few weeks." But that night, after she falls asleep, I find myself drawn to the bathroom, the only place where a small mirror remains, necessary for shaving. The shard in my palm pulses more intensely as I approach it, like a compass needle pulling north. Standing before the mirror, I raise my hand, palm facing the glass. The shard glows brighter, blue light seeping through skin. In the reflection, I see not just my face, but something else. A figure standing behind me, barely visible, its features indistinct except for piercing blue eyes. "What do you want?" I whisper, knowing somehow the entity can hear me. The figure doesn't speak, but I feel words forming in my mind. A vessel, a bridge, as she was meant to be. Now you. "I'll destroy you," I promise, clutching the counter edge with my free hand. "Whatever's left of you in these fragments." A smile forms in the reflection, though my actual face remains stone cold. "You cannot destroy what lives between. Gregory tried, Lucian tried, now part of me lives in you." The blue light pulses once more, intensely, then dims. The figure vanishes, leaving only my ordinary reflection, tired eyes, set jaw, the face of a warrior who thought the battle won. I return to bed, wrap my arm around Valerie's sleeping form. In darkness, I study my palm. The shard seems dormant now, a tiny sliver barely visible beneath skin. But I know this is just beginning of another phase. Whatever entity lived in those mirrors for centuries hasn't been destroyed, merely scattered like Gregory's original mirror. And now it seeks to reassemble itself, shard by shard, reflection by reflection. I close my eyes, formulating plans. I'll need to research more, find other fragments, learn how to truly destroy them. The battle has merely changed fronts. As I drift toward uneasy sleep, one thought provides comfort. I've spent my life hunting enemies across deserts, mountains, urban labyrinths. Now I'll hunt across a different terrain, the infinite landscape of reflections. And this time, I won't stop until every last fragment is destroyed. I am Mason Reed, husband, protector. Mirror Hunter. Epilogue Reflective Fragments. 3 months later, the nightmares haven't stopped. They always follow the same pattern. I stand in a hall of mirrors, each one showing a different version of me. Some younger, some older, some wounded or scarred in ways I've never been. And always in the largest mirror at the center, Gregory Blackwood watches, his ancient eyes patient and knowing. Time flows differently in reflections, he tells me each night. What seems like months to you has been mere moments for me. I have waited centuries. I can wait longer. I wake from these dreams drenched in sweat, the shard in my palm pulsing with faint blue light that illuminates the bedroom ceiling. Beside me, Valerie sleeps peacefully, unaware of the war still raging. She's healing well. Her art has taken a new direction, abstract landscapes, vibrant with color, devoid of reflective surfaces. Her exhibition last week received critical acclaim, critics praising her rebirth and newfound clarity of vision. No one mentions her previous mirror installations. It's as if they've been collectively forgotten, erased from cultural memory. I've learned this is part of the pattern. Those who encounter Gregory's mirrors and survive often find their memories of the experience fading, replaced by more comfortable alternatives. Everyone connected to the charity night incident now recalls it as a performance art piece that went too far, or a publicity stunt gone wrong. Even Detective Morrison seems to have forgotten our conversation about Blackwood's death, greeting me with casual unfamiliarity when we crossed paths at the coffee shop. Everyone forgets except me. The shard won't let me forget. Sometimes I catch glimpses of other places through reflective surfaces, strange landscapes with impossible architecture, or familiar locations distorted in subtle ways. Occasionally I see people I know, but subtly wrong, Valerie with blue hair instead of chestnut, myself with scars I've never received. I've begun tracking other fragments. Using military contacts, police reports of unusual incidents, art theft databases. I'm building a map, identifying patterns, whispers of collectors seeking specific antique mirrors, reports of people experiencing lost time or personality changes after acquiring certain reflective artifacts. In my garage workshop, converted to research station, I've compiled extensive files on Gregory Blackwood's legacy. Historical records, witness accounts across centuries, scientific papers on quantum physics and consciousness that might explain what I've experienced. The professor has been invaluable, providing access to restricted archives and introducing me to others who have encountered similar phenomena. A small, secretive network of people who remember what most forget. I've learned to manage the shard's influence. It grows stronger near other fragments, vibrating subtly when in proximity to Gregory's mirrors. This makes me both vulnerable and uniquely equipped, a compass pointing to danger, a detector for the scattered pieces of an ancient puzzle. Valerie notices changes in me, my new obsession with historical research, frequent unexplained absences, the gloves I now wear constantly. She worries but doesn't press. Some part of her, I suspect, knows not to look too deeply into the shadows we both barely escaped. Last week I tracked a fragment to an auction house in Boston, a historically significant maritime artifact being sold to private collector. I arrived too late to prevent the sale, but followed the buyer to a townhouse in Beacon Hill. Through binoculars, I watched him hang the mirror in a study lined with other antiques. That night, standing across the street, I witnessed the blue glow emanating from his windows, saw his silhouette conversing with empty air. When I returned 3 days later, the townhouse was for sale, the owner relocated unexpectedly. The mirror was gone. The pattern repeats. I'm always one step behind, chasing shadows and reflections across the country. The entity that was Gregory Blackwood is reassembling itself, piece by piece, claiming new vessels, influencing events from the boundaries between worlds. Tonight, as Valerie sleeps beside me, I study my palm in moonlight. The shard has grown imperceptibly larger, the skin around it slightly blue-tinged. Sometimes I feel it pulse in rhythm with distant heartbeats, other fragments calling to each other across space. I will find you, I whisper to it, all of you. In response, the shard pulses once, almost mockingly. In the bedroom mirror across the room, I catch glimpse of movement, a figure watching, its eyes ancient and patient. The hunter and the hunted, locked in reflection. The war continues. And somewhere in the space between mirrors, Gregory Blackwood waits.